I remember when I had just started crocheting, and I bought so many crochet pattern books because I wanted to make all the things. And I remember just looking through these books and being so amazed at how these designers could come up with all these different stitches or all these different stitch combinations and make this incredible design. And so here I am, 25, 24 years later, and I'm creating those stitch patterns that I was so amazed at back then. Yes, designing crochet patterns does take skill and it takes an art to do it, but there is also some tricks of the trade that you may not be aware of. In today's video, I'm going to share one trick of the trade that's going to change the way you create your crochet designs. I had an absolute obsession with Vanna White designs. So if you don't know who Vanna White is, she is the co-host of The Wheel of Fortune. So I always watch The Wheel of Fortune. Yes, I'm that old, and I still watch it today. It's Wheel of Fortune, and then we watch Jeopardy. That is what we do every evening. So if you're wondering what I'm doing during the evening, I'm usually eating dinner while watching Wheel of Fortune and then crocheting while I'm watching Jeopardy. So Vanna is an avid crocheter and she's been crocheting for years. She actually has her own line of yarn with Lion Brand called Vanna White Yarn. When I could afford it, I would buy her pattern books, and I eventually ended up having most of her pattern books, and I wanted to make every single design that was in her books. One of the very first blankets I ever crocheted was a sampler blanket from her pattern book. I don't even remember which pattern book it was. It was probably one of the first that she had published. So it was just a bunch of squares of different stitch designs, and then you seamed it together, put in a pretty border, and you call it good. So I set out to make this sampler blanket. When I first started my crochet journey, I could not afford all the nice yarn that I can afford today. And most of the yarn that I bought or received was either given to me, bought at a complete discount, if not at a thrift store, or I would scour eBay for yarn. That was like the equivalent of looking at Facebook Marketplace back then. If I could afford a brand new skein of yarn, it was usually when it was on sale and I could only buy like one or two at a time. So it was probably in, I don't know, maybe 2000, 2002, or somewhere around that time, I really got into crocheting as an obsession almost. Okay, so I was scouring eBay. I found this listing. There was probably I don't know, 30 or 40 skeins, brand new skeins. And I think there was maybe 5 or so that was like partial skeins, but of Vanna White yarn. Y'all, I was so excited. I was giddy. There was all this yarn, practically brand new, and it was dirt cheap. I think it was like $20. So I jumped right on it. Bought the box, it arrived. I really didn't like the colors of what was listed. They had all the different pictures and stuff. And I was like, I'll make something out of it. You can't pass up having all that yarn for the amount of money that they were, asking for. So I bought it and it arrives and I'm so excited. I still don't like the color combos, whatever. I was going to make that sampler pattern from Vanna White with Vanna White yarn. Once that box arrived, y'all, I got right to it and I started making squares. And do you guys want to see? After 24 years and so many washes, this thing has traveled around the country with me and it's still holding up. So here, let me show you. Here it is. I still don't like the color combos, but it is what it is. So there's a lot that I learned about this blanket. Like when I made it, I was sitting there like, "Ugh, it's not as big as I wanted it to." Well, because I didn't listen to the instructions like I should have. So I should have made 4 squares down, like 4 squares by 6. But I did a 3 by 5, so whatever. But I do like it's literally the perfect little, it's almost like a shawl. It's almost like a just a big rectangular shawl because I honestly take this thing to Waffle House whenever I go because Waffle House is so stinking cold. It could be like the dead of summer and Waffle House is freezing cold. So anyway, this is it. Ugly colors and everything, but it keeps me warm. I love it. And it taught me so many different stitch techniques, which I was so excited to learn. And I mean, I can look at this blanket and I can see all my various mistakes. I mean, I could literally point every single one out, but it was a learning experience and I loved it. And let me tell you, I am always so amazed at how durable yarn is when I go to, like, so the first time I ever washed this blanket, I was so scared. I put it in the wash and I was just going to wash it like how I do every other blanket that I have. So I threw it in the washer and I thought, oh God, I know that I'm going to open the washer and all I'm going to see is string everywhere. Like I was ready to cry. I was prepared. I was emotionally prepared for disaster. And when I opened it up and it was still in the same shape and everything, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. And then I dried it. And I don't know how many times I've washed this thing, I've dried it. It's peeling, like there's peeling going on and or piling, whatever. Piling, piling. Alexa, how do you pronounce piling?
I pronounce that piling, but I'm
Piling.
working on how I say things and I might not have it right.
You know what, Alexa? Me too. Okay, so piling, there's piling happening. And it's just because I washed it so much. But this is one of my very first blankets. And all these years later, I still have it. So now it is 20 something years later. Here I am being able to design stitch patterns and stitch combinations to create my own blankets, to create bags and scarves and all that fun stuff. And the one tool that really helped me on my designing journey is stitch dictionaries. Stitch dictionaries are a great way for crochet designers to find inspiration for their next crochet design. And I'm going to share with you guys some of my favorite stitch dictionaries, and I'm going to walk you through the process of how I designed these two projects. This one is a scarf and this one is a blanket. So I'm going to walk you through all of that. We're going to dive deep into these resources. I'm also going to share with you guys about copyright, because I know that that is a concern in the crochet community about, well, if I use that stitch combination, it looks like this person's blanket design. And what about that person's hat pattern? It looks similar to theirs. We're going to tackle all those topics. Okay, I've grabbed some of my most favorite stitch dictionaries. Some of them have tabs that I keep all my favorite stitches that I've really liked, that I've worked with before. I've made notes in my stitch dictionaries and stuff. So let me catch my breath. There's not one stitch dictionary that is better than the rest. If there is a stitch dictionary that you see on Amazon or that you find in the big box store or wherever, just buy it and use it and be happy. It doesn't matter what, this designer has used or what that designer has used. It doesn't matter. Get whatever you can afford, get whatever you like. I need a moment to get me some coffee. Hold on. Okay. So the first book I'm going to share with you is called Super Stitches Crochet. I will say that stitch dictionaries are really great, but they are and can be very expensive. I normally buy my stitch dictionaries. Well, actually, I buy a lot of my books from thrift books or some type of bargain book. I will also go to my local library because sometimes they will have books that they know, like they get in so many new books that they'll get rid of their old books, and I can just purchase them for like $1 or whatever. So I have found some crochet books in the bargain bin at the crochet library, at the library. Super Stitches Crochet is authored by Jennifer Campbell and Anne Marie Bakewell. This dictionary features over 180 stitch patterns. The table of contents organizes the stitches and techniques into different pattern types. The book includes information on how to use it, and it's filled with beautiful photographs of the various crochet stitches. Each swatch includes a stitch diagram as well as the written instructions. And at the bottom of each page, it identifies the stitch pattern that's being displayed. So the next book is Crochet Every Way Stitch Dictionary by Ora Orenstein. If you want to learn about shaping and designing different shapes, especially for wearables, this book is where it's at. Crochet Every Way Stitch Dictionary by Dora Orenstein. This book presents 125 essential crochet stitches in 3 different variations. So in this book, Orenstein offers various stitch patterns and discusses the techniques to shape them. She covers a wide range of stitch types, and for each pattern, she explains the basic design, including the edge shaping, which involves increases and decreases, and then there's also the internal shaping. Additionally, each stitch pattern is accompanied by its own diagram. I have not personally used this book. Like, I've read through a lot of the things that she wrote in this book, but I have not used it to design a wearable yet. But it is on my list for 2025. Could that be one of my goals for 2025? We'll see. Okay, the next book is the Crochet Stitch Dictionary by Sarah Hazel. There's 200 essential stitches with step-by-step photos. As you can tell, I have utilized this book. I actually have some notes in here about, different things that I had designed, and like I did all my math in the book. So that way I can have it in a place and it won't get lost, because I have a tendency to write things down on little sticky notes and then I lose them. So anyway, Crochet Stitch Dictionary. The Crochet Stitch Dictionary by Sarah Hazel. This book features 200 essential stitches, and each one is accompanied by step-by-step photos. One of the things that I love about this book is the inclusion of pictures of all the swatches. You can quickly glance at the different stitches covered in the book without having to flip through the pages. Additionally, there is a page that explains all the various elements that are found on each stitch pattern page. So this one is a really good book. The next one is The Complete Crochet Course, the Ultimate Reference Guide. I actually got this book for free from Amazon because I got it, but do you see how messed up it is right there? I don't know what they did in delivery, but it got messed up. So I had reached out to Amazon and I was like, hey, I want to return this and get one that is like not broken. And they were like, well, why don't you just keep that one? I paid $30 for it. And they're like, well, just keep that one. And I was like, all right, then I'll keep a damaged book for free. That's fine by me. So anyway, this is from Shannon and Jason Mullet Bowlesby. Complete Crochet Course by Shannon and Jason Mullet-Bowlesby. This book offers an abundance of information packed into its over 300 pages. The book includes tutorials and how-tos and guides and various projects, and then also the different valuable resources. Each stitch pattern page features the name of the stitch, along with a swatch, line-by-line instructions, and a stitch diagram. Whether you're wanting to design a crochet pattern or if you're just wanting to get better at crochet, honestly, this is the best investment. Okay, the next one is The Ultimate Crochet Bible. This one is by Jane Crowfoot. It's a complete reference with step-by-step techniques. Ultimate Crochet Bible by Jane Crowfoot discusses various aspects of crochet, including the different types of hooks, different yarn, how they work together. The book outlines the essential rules for crochet and features sections on reading simple charts. Then it gets into the various stitch patterns, which is all accompanied by a photo of what the swatch should look like, a stitch diagram, and the written instructions. The book also covers different color work techniques. That one's a good one. And then I've got two more that I'm going to show you. These two are my go-to all the time. I have the most notes and the most little tabs, and Kalani has even chewed it up. So this one is from Melissa Leapman. It's Indispensable Stitch Collection for Crocheters, 200 stitch patterns in words and symbols. Indispensable Stitch Collection for Crocheters by Melissa Leapman. This book features 200 stitch patterns presented in both words and symbols. Similar to other stitch dictionaries, the patterns are organized by pattern type. The book includes a small section on how to shape stitch patterns. Each stitch pattern is accompanied by a picture of the swatch, as well as the stitch diagram and the written instructions. One of my most favorite books ever, ever, ever. The last stitch dictionary that I'm going to show you in today's video is what's called the New Crochet Stitch Dictionary. There's 440 patterns for textures, shells, bobbles, lace, cables, chevrons, edgings, granny squares, and more. The New Crochet Stitch Dictionary by Nell Brass and Evelyn Hetty Burkhart provides a comprehensive guide to various stitch patterns. Each stitch is clearly titled, and like many stitch dictionaries, it includes information on the necessary stitch multiples as well as the starting chains. Additionally, the book offers insights into the construction of each swatch, and of course, it includes the stitch diagrams. And what I love the most about this pattern book is that they do not have the written instructions. So you have to come up with your own instructions, which is the way to go when you're designing a crochet pattern. Using this, like the different stitch combos or whatever, and then writing out your own instructions is great. Literally is my go-to, like my go-to. I'm going to walk you guys through how to utilize stitch dictionaries when creating your next design. So I'm going to walk you through the two designs that I created using a stitch dictionary. The first one is my scarf pattern. I do not have a name for this pattern. I have not yet published it. I was actually going to put it as a free pattern on my blog, so this will give me the motivation to put a name to it. And then the next one is my Waves of Grace blanket. It's a big, huge throw blanket in my at least close enough brand colors. I'm also going to kind of give you like the best practices And we're going to talk a little bit about copyright because I know that that is everybody's concern when it comes to utilizing stitch dictionaries. Okay, are you guys ready? Let's do this. Whether you need a little inspiration for your next design or you just need a little help figuring out a stitch pattern for an idea that's already formed in your mind, I'm going to show you how to use stitch dictionaries. First thing that you're going to want to do is gather up all your stitch dictionaries. It doesn't matter if you have one or if you have a whole stack. Go ahead and gather them up and look through them for a little inspiration. What I normally do is I just look through each one and I find the stitch patterns that really just jump out at me. Then I narrow it down to 1 or 2 stitch patterns and then make my final choice. I know for my Waves of Grace blanket, I wanted to use a ripple pattern to reflect its name. I looked at the various stitch patterns in this section until I found that one that really spoke to me. I love the way that the double crochet in Gentle Waves looked, and I kind of like the name too. If you see, my finished blanket looks like the swatch. This stitch pattern has a pattern repeat of 17 stitches. Knowing what the width and the length of my blanket is going to be, I am now going to need to do some math to figure out how many pattern repeats I will need to make in order to crochet my blanket to the size that I want it. After doing some crochet math magic and working up a swatch, I now got started with my design. There's a couple of things that I want you to keep in mind as we're talking about stitch dictionaries. So utilizing a stitch dictionary does not make you a fake or an imposter. All the best crochet designers use these stitch dictionaries. Maybe not these in particular, but I'm sure they have their own library of resources that they go to when they're wanting to design their next pattern. I can almost guarantee that there are times that they will get into a crochet funk and they just cannot, for the life of them, come up with an idea to design. So they'll flip through their crochet stitch dictionaries, and a swatch in that book is going to inspire them. Like, ooh, that would look really good on a hat. Or, oh man, this stitch combination and this stitch combination would look so good for this blanket or that sweater. So if anybody ever tells you that you're a fake or that you're an imposter because you're using a stitch dictionary, you know what to tell them. Frog off, buddy. Frog off. Okay, maybe that wasn't very Christian-like, but that was my menopause speaking. Don't let people discourage you or make you feel bad that you're using stitch dictionaries. I promise you, the best designers use these stitch dictionaries. So the other thing too that I want to mention is that in the stitch dictionaries where they have the written instructions, even though the written instructions in a crochet pattern are not covered by copyright law, it's best not to sit there and copy the written instructions for your own pattern. What I like to do is I'll look at the stitch diagram and then I will write my pattern. I'll write my pattern according to what I'm seeing in that stitch diagram. I don't ever look at the actual written instructions and write my pattern from that. I just feel personally, I just don't like to do that. Not that I feel like I'm infringing on any type of copyright, but I just want to protect my own integrity and dignity. So I just stick to writing my pattern instructions according to what I'm seeing in that stitch diagram. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I honestly hope that today's video has helped you kind of overcome maybe some of the fears or the concerns of using crochet stitch dictionaries to create designs. It's common practice. Every designer does it. No more fear. No, don't let anybody put any shame or any fear on you about using them. That's what they're there for, to create crochet magic, to create these beautiful designs. So let them be a point of inspiration, a point of creativity. Let them motivate you into creating those designs. If this video has helped you in any way, please hit that like button. And if you're new here, I would love to hear your crochet story. I'd love to know if you're a designer or if you're a maker. And if you are a designer, let me know. What do you want to learn about? What are some of the things that you're frustrated with in the designing process or even in the crochet community? Let's figure this out together. All right, y'all, I am going to go work on this pattern that I've been testing, and I am so excited. I will be showing that to y'all in just a few weeks. So, all right, I'll catch y'all later.